Hello sexiest and welcome back to War Thunder. As you can hear by my rather hushy voice, it is currently very late as I am recording this. I spent pretty much the entire afternoon gathering information and setting up some custom missions for this video. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the announcement of the Chinese tank tree and air tree into War Thunder, which I was really not expecting despite the leaks. And specifically we're going to be talking about one tank, or rather two tanks, the Type 69. Nice. So there have been some rumors about the Chinese tech tree coming out with this patch, and frankly I did really not believe it. We already have a lot of content coming this patch, and usually Gaijin only releases new tech trees in December for the Christmas sales. At the same time, the timing does make some sense. If you didn't know, there is actually a Chinese version of War Thunder. Pretty much the identical game, but that game is run by Tencent under a license. The license actually expired, and apparently the game over on the Chinese client is still stuck in 1.87 and is dying. All the models are already done for that client and very easy to port over. In fact, we've had Chinese tanks in the game for a long while actually, and not just talking about the event tanks, the Type 62, the Type 65 and the LVTs2 that have been made available as event vehicles in the past. No, I'm talking 28 total Chinese tanks in the game files listed as Chinese tanks. In fact, I have even been showing them off on streams, which, by the way, wink wink, twitch.tv/MikeGoesBoom, we are going to be streaming the dev server, which is likely coming today, so head over there, leave it a follow if you want to see the content. Given that the Chinese version of the game is dying, you have all these models that are very easy to port over and are already done. And given that the patch 1.91 is also bringing night vision and thermal vision mechanics, which do put the Soviets at a big disadvantage because their optical equipment generally was rather poor, and it is going to be reflected in the game. In case the Chinese are paired with the Soviets, of course, despite their history, I would suggest reading up on the Sino-Soviet splits. They weren't exactly the best of friends after that. But just in case that China does get paired up with the Soviet Union, they will somewhat balance out the Soviets' bad optics with their upgraded ones. The Chinese had a habit of taking Soviet-derived tanks and upgrading them with Western guns and fire control systems and night vision equipment as well. In fact, let's move on to the star of this video specifically. We're going to be covering 2 out of the 28 tanks that are currently in the game files, specifically the Type 69 and the Type 69-2. These are actually China's first native MBT design. Well, kind of. Yes, I know they look identical to a T-54-55, which they basically are, but these were indeed developed by Chinese engineers, not Russian ones. The Type 69 is based on the Type 59 hull, which is essentially just a Chinese T-54, and it fits a 100mm smoothbore Type 69 cannon with a 44 round capacity. By the way, before we go any further, keep in mind that the stats I'm reading are mostly read off of the game files, although they might change by the time the Chinese territory actually comes out. I will be looking at them again on the dev server to make sure that things stay correct. Also, some information will be taken from Wikipedia, which is not the most reliable source, so take some of the things I say with a grain of salt. Anyways, the gun is fully stabilized and has a 7-second reload. Pretty respectable. The ammo is a bit of a mishmash. Stock, it actually comes with APF SDS, which is great. It's got a 1505 meter per second muzzle velocity, which is once again great, and it only has 220mm of penetration flat. Thankfully, the data does actually provide us with angle modifiers for this, so you have 220mm flat at 10 meters, you have 205mm of penetration at 30 degrees, and 127mm at 60 degrees. This is likely going to be the worst APF-SDR shell in the game. Stock, you also get access to a 100mm HE shell, nothing spectacular. Muzzle velocity of 900 meters per second, 1.3 kilogram TNT filler. It gets about 19mm of pen. You can maybe kill some SPA with that. As an upgrade, you only get one shell, which is Heat FS, 1000 meters per second muzzle velocity and 390mm of penetration. The gun handling of the Type 69 is kind of bad. It only gets a 15 degree per second turret traverse, which is pretty bad for main battle tank standards, and a 4.5 degrees per second elevation. That said, it does get a pretty good two-plane stabilizer, so you can kind of use that perhaps to turn your turret a bit faster if you know what you're doing. Apart from the main gun, you also have a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun with 3,400 rounds and a top-mounted 12.7mm or 50 caliber heavy machine gun with 500 rounds and a full 360-degree rotation. This heavy machine gun can even elevate up to 60 degrees, making it somewhat useful against aircraft. The mobility is nothing special really. The Type 69 weighs a total of 36.5 tons and has a 580 horsepower diesel engine, which is about the same output as a T55A, but the tank itself is 500 kilograms heavier. This gives the Type 69 a horsepower per ton power to weight ratio of 15.8. Not great, not terrible. Some of the upgrades that the Chinese did put on it were a laser rangefinder and an infrared searchlight, so you can expect some rudimentary night vision sights in the upcoming patch. These were apparently captured from a Soviet T-62 after the split, so they should be identical. Overall, the Type 69 is quite a bit of a mishmash. It's got some quite bad stock APF SDS, but a pretty good fully stabilized heat-of-S slinging gun with a rangefinder and night vision. It doesn't seem to be quite as good as the T55A, so would put this tank at battle rating 7.7 to 8.0. Thankfully, there is an upgraded version. Now, this one doesn't seem to currently be on the proposed tech tree, although it is in the game files and is fully ready, so I'm not sure what Gaijin is exactly going to be doing with that, but we're going to be talking about it regardless. The Type 69 2A. This is essentially an upgraded version of the Type 69. According to Wikipedia, it has a 100mm Type 69 2 smoothbore gun, but in the game it is rifled for whatever reason. Total carrying capacity is once again 44 rounds. This gun is also fully stabilized, and as the predecessor has a 7-second reload. Where this gun differentiates itself from the predecessor is in the ammo selection. Instead of a horrible APF SDS shell, you got a stock APVS shell with 1432 meters per second muzzle velocity and 299mm of flat penetration at 10 meters. I can't actually find any values for angled penetration, but given that this is APDS, not APFSDS, you can expect some pretty bad penetration when it comes to angled plates. Stock you also got HE shell. Once again, nothing spectacular. 880 meters per second muzzle velocity, 1.46 kilograms of TNT, 90 millimeters of penetration. Much like the T55A, you also get access to a APCVC shell with an explosive filler. This has a muzzle velocity of 887 meters per second. It has 61 grams of AIX2 compound, which is equivalent to about 90 grams of TNT. And it doesn't actually have any obvious armor pen values in the files, but this is listed as the exact same shell as the T55A, so expect 239mm of flat penetration. As upgrades, you get one APF SDS shell. This has 1430 meters per second muzzle velocity and a flat penetration of 335mm at 10 meters. Once again, I have no info on angled penetration, but this is supposed to be a tungsten penetrator, but it is a short rod, so angled penetration should be better than the APDS shell, but still not spectacular. And finally, you also have access to a Heat FS shell with a muzzle velocity of 1000 meters per second and a penetration of 390mm at all ranges. Just like the predecessor, the gun handling of the Type 69-2 is pretty bad. It only has a vertical limit range of -4 degrees to positive 17 degrees. This is really quite bad. The turret once again rotates pretty slowly, 15 degrees per second, and the gun only has a 4.5 degree per second elevation speed. But once again, this is also fully stabilized. Apart from the main gun, you have a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun and a top-mounted 12.7mm heavy machine gun with a full 360-degree rotation, exactly the same as the predecessor. In fact, just like the predecessor, the weight and the engine are also the same, so same power-to-weight ratio, but it has a couple of interesting upgrades. Namely, it gets smoke grenade launchers that fire forwards, and it gets side skirts! Oh, look at them. Oh, they're so sexy. Oh, they're so good. I love myself some tanks with side skirts. Come on, you just have to admit. Type 69 with side skirts, it's the perfect tank. According to Wikipedia, it also gets a better fire control system, although I'm not sure how that will be represented in War Thunder, and you might get some upgraded night vision equipment, but I'm not too sure. Neither the Type 69 1 nor the Type 69 2 actually had thermal equipment. This didn't come until the Type 69 3, which is also known as the Type 79. This one is currently planned on the tech tree list, but is not coming this patch, and we don't actually have the data for this in the game. But I made a bit of a research, and I can tell you that this variant actually has a 105mm derivative of the L7. Yes, essentially a T55 with an L7 gun, which can fire NATO ammo, as well as having a thermal sleeve. This tank will also get passive infrared and thermal sights, which should be quite a bit better than the Soviet counterparts. Apart from that, it also has a 730 horsepower diesel engine, quite a bit stronger than of the predecessor, and access to explosive reactive armor. This is upcoming in the future, sadly not this patch, but it should be when the Chinese tech tree also actually starts being somewhat different, or at least noticeably different from the Soviet tech tree. To finish off this video, I'm actually going to suggest a premium for a Gaijin to implement. Across my research of the Type 69, I've came across a pretty interesting variant. Bangladesh fielded a Type 69 with its own modifications called the Type 69 2G. This also has a fully stabilized 105mm gun, L7 derivative, but it apparently is a smooth bore and it has an autoloader. As such, it can actually fire both NATO ammo as well as ATGMs. Imagine that, an L7 that can fire ATGMs. Apart from that, it also gets pretty good thermal imaging sights. It gets an 850 horsepower diesel engine, which is pretty strong, and it gets 3rd gen explosive reactive armor and a laser warning receiver, which of course we don't have the mechanics for in War Thunder, but if they ever implemented that, you would get a warning every time someone tried to laser you for a Hellfire missile, for example, or if they tried to use a laser rangefinder on you. This could be a pretty interesting premium tank for the Chinese tech tree. It would even probably fit perfectly into the 8.7 battle rating that they like to put all the premium tanks at this tier at. In fact, given that it can fire NATO ammunition, I wouldn't be surprised if it could fire some pretty high power APF-SDS shells. The dev server for patch 1.91 is very likely to come out this Saturday, so today, as of the upload of this video. Once again, I will be streaming the dev server on my Twitch page, twitch.tv/MikeGoesBoom, and given the sheer amount of content, given that an entire 2 tech trees is released at the same time, we are likely going to be streaming for a long time. In fact, as you know, I am going to be doing custom battles, and in fact I've even prepared something already for thermal sights. The map you saw in the last video where I simulated thermal vision and night vision. Well, only night vision, really. I've prepared that map to use once the patch drops, so we can actually use actual in-game night vision and thermal sights on a night city map. And I've talked to a couple of people already who can help me with getting some of the new maps, specifically the new tank map, up as a custom battle as soon as possible, so we can all explore together. So, I invite you all cordially to join the stream later on. But this is going to be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this preview of the Type 69 tank. I know I did. Tell me in the comment section down below which tanks you are most interested in. You can find a link to the news post with the tech tree release images in the description down below as well, in case you are a bit lost. And I hope you enjoyed this video. In fact, if you did, why not leave it a like rating? It really helps out the channel. If you're new around here and you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you do exactly that. We're going to be having a lot more content with the upcoming patch, and you don't want to be missing out on it, given that I have now this awesome power of reading the data directly. Yes! Also, I love my side skirts. Anyways, lads, my name is MikeGoesBoom, and as always, thank you for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find